Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate, Jim O'Neill, and it's a delight to be with you today. We welcome you in person and those who are joining us virtually. For those of you who are visiting, Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a search spiritually for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements, and we have actually 2 announcements this morning. First is from the president of our board, Marcia Jan.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Baton Rouge is hosting a gathering on Saturday, October 21st, for a day of reflection and celebration, and UUs across the state are invited. A number of our members have expressed an interest in attending, and the invitation and the sign-up sheet are located in the fellowship hall. And if you are interested in carpooling, then let us know. You can put that on the sign-up sheet. And they would like a head count of how many people are going to attend by October 13th. So if you're interested, I'll be over there after church, and we can, if you have any questions, I hope I can answer them. So just check it out and let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. We are also in the middle of our pledge drive, and so today we're going to hear from Bill Fernandez.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Fernandez, and we're right in the middle of our pledge drive. It's going well. Right now, we currently are at 64,200. Our goal is 100,000. If you haven't pledged yet, we have pledge forms on the table in the foyer. So pick one up, fill it out today. So what we do, one of the things we do during our pledge drive is talk about what it means to be a Unitarian. So here's my story. I'm going to start at the beginning. A lot of you know my former wife, Cindy Scott. Well, this is back early on. We're both out of school. We're living in Baton Rouge. And I grew up Catholic. She grew up Methodist. And we wanted to find a church. So we decided to just go on an expedition and try out all these different churches. And it was an experience. It was a very eye-opening experience for her. The thing that would turn her off if she ever heard the word submit, that was it. I got fingernails in my arms, and it was a no for her. And I'm saying, well, wait a second. This submit thing sounds pretty good. And then she gave me the question, do you really want me to submit? And I knew there was only one answer, and so we kept looking. And then for me, I'll say this. We went to a church, I don't know which one it was because we went to so many. And the preacher was talking about when he was in college. And he was staying with his family in Indiana. And he would go to bed at night, crying himself to sleep because they were atheists, they didn't believe in Jesus, and they were going to go to hell. And it's like, that just doesn't resonate with me. So, we were about to give up. Cindy calls her sister, Molly. She says, Molly, I just went to Unity Church, and doesn't feel right. And Molly started laughing. I didn't say unity, I said Unitarian. You don't know it, but you're a Unitarian. So we said, okay, we're going to try one more time. And we go to the Unitarian church in Baton Rouge. The minister was the Reverend Steve Crump. Now, this wasn't any Sunday. This was a special Sunday because he gets up there. He says, I'm not going to talk about what I had planned to talk about. We're going to talk about something different. Well, lo and behold, a Cubs group wanted to join the church, and there were people that did not want them to join, from what I understood. And we found out Cubs were pagans. And when we heard that, it's like, oh my gosh, pagans. And he said he and his mom were, when they were in the Methodist church, they were kicked out, and he was never going to go through that again. And we're thinking, wow, this is different. And he says, I'm a Unitarian, and being a Unitarian, you don't kick out people, this is not what I believe in, and I am totally against it. And so he ended it and everything, and we go to the reception and we talk to people, and says, and this is when I heard this saying for the first time. If you didn't like today's sermon, come back next week and it'll be different. So we did go back. If you want to know how it turned out, Steve was still a minister. A year later, we got married in the church. Steve was the minister Emeritus. And at the reception, my cousin talking. He says, they got pagans in this church. He went around reading the signs and everything. So, be careful what you put up on the boards. No. And why am I a Unitarian? Because when they passed a law when same-sex marriage, our good friend from college, Robert, moved back to Louisiana, got married in this church because he couldn't get married in his church. And it was done by the Reverend Jim Edwards. So if there's any church I wanted to be in, this would be it. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Well, you've kind of already given the introduction that we are delighted to have returning to our pulpit, Reverend Dr. Steve J. Crump, Minister Emeritus of the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge, and also my minister for 7 years when we were in that community. Very interested in his topic today, by bread alone. So we welcome him. It is our custom to have a land acknowledgement, which is on the back of your order of service, if you'd like to join me in this acknowledgement. We acknowledge and pay tribute to the original inhabitants of this land. The city of New Orleans is the continuation of an indigenous trade route on the Mississippi River, known for thousands of years as Baton. We recognize that as a result of broken treaties and involuntary removals, Native Americans were often forced from their lands. We remember that they respected the communities impacted by these actions. Native peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and the resilient voices of Native Americans remain an inseparable part of our local culture. With gratitude and honor, we recognize the indigenous nations conclude to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of Chalice Lighting. We light this flame. They're printed in your order of service. It is now a time for all ages. We hear from our Religious Education Director, Cynthia Ramirez.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This month, the children are going to be talking about heritage, and the first lesson is on roots and what that means. So this is a story about just that, and it's called The Story of the Little Oak Tree by Barbara Marshman. At the edge of the forest stood a large, fat mushroom. Next to it, there grew a spindly plant about the same height with 4 leaves. One day, the mushroom said to its companion, "Hey there, Skinny, I've been watching you. How come when everybody pushes over a mushroom, we go all to pieces, but when you get pushed over, you can straighten up again as good as new?" The little plant thought for a while, then answered, "I guess it's because I have something down under the ground called roots. They go down deep, and when I get pushed, I just hang on tight with my roots until I'm all right again." "Hey, that's a neat idea," said the mushroom. "How do you go about getting these roots?" "Well," said its friend slowly, "it takes a long time. I've been growing mine for almost a year." "A year?" shouted the mushroom. "Who's got that kind of time?" "A whole year growing something that you can't even see? They may be handy, but that's the silliest waste of time I've ever heard." And the mushroom laughed and laughed. Finally, it said to its forest friend, "By the way, Skinny, when you've got all that fancy roots grown, what do you expect to be?" The little plant seemed to grow taller as he said, "Do you see that tallest oak standing strong against the wind on the hill? That's my mother, and someday I'm going to be strong and tall just like her." The end. Let's go ahead and sing the children out wherever they may be.
I invite you now to join in our responsive reading, number 654, Impassioned Clay. Number 654, Impassioned Clay. Deep in ourselves resides the religious impulse. Out of the actions of our clay it arises. We have religion when we stop deluding ourselves that we are self-sufficient, self-sustaining, or self-derived. We have religion when we hold some hope beyond the present, some self-respect beyond our failures. We have religion when our hearts are capable of leaping up at beauty, when our nerves are edged by some dream of the heart. people with all their failings and still find in them good. When we look beyond people to the grandeur in nature and to the purpose in our own heart. We have religion when we have done all we can, and then in confidence to trust ourselves to a life that is larger than ourselves. Today's lesson is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. It is known as the Sermon on the Mount, and this is an adapted version from the New Testament for everyone. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the hillside and sat down. His disciples came to him. He took a deep breath and then began his teaching. Blessings on the poor in spirit. The kingdom of heaven is yours. Blessings on the mourners. You're going to be comforted. Blessings on the meek. You're going to inherit the earth. Blessings on people who hunger and thirst for justice. You're going to be satisfied. Blessings on the merciful. You'll receive mercy yourselves. Blessings on the pure in heart. You will see God. Blessings on the peacemakers. You'll be called God's children. Blessings on people who are persecuted because of God's way. The kingdom of heaven belongs to you. Blessings on you when people slander you and persecute you and say all kinds of wicked things about you falsely because of me. Celebrate and rejoice. That's how they persecuted the prophets who went before you. Will you join now in the hymn, Thou Fount of Every Blessing, number 126, that's number 126. Come, thou fount of every blessing.
Every blessing
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you're online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comments section to be read aloud. In person, you may write them on one of the cards being passed out by Will, or feel free to come up to the microphone and share your joys or sorrows after our Song of Interlude, which is number 305. Decalogue, number 305.
We're going to start on the Spanish, and then we're going to go through the English.
From Mary Ann, very concerned about the salt water coming up from the river. And the joy to listen to the choir today, beautiful voice, and thank you, Nicholas, for the wonderful music. What a joy to share that. Are there any other joys and sorrows? Yes, please.
My name is Carol, and I have a joy and a sorrow. My joy is that Reverend Steve Crump is here with us from Baton Rouge. His messages are always interesting and inspiring. And he was Charlotte's minister when she was married to Keller, and they lived in Baton Rouge, and she's just as thrilled to have him. Now, yes, sir. And my sorrow is, I do want to acknowledge that I know many people have circumstances that prevent them from attending church, and I'm aware of that. And I just need to say I was a little heartbroken last week when we had such a poor turnout in attendance. It is the lowest attendance I've ever seen in my 21 years of participating with this church. And I am understanding, and I just was so sad by that. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Laura Vignoli. I'm here visiting. Originally from the Rouge Church in Augusta, Maine, but I attended many years the Unitarian Universalist Church in Arlington, Virginia, which is one of the largest in the country. So this one feels really home because of the size. And I just want to say that I love to be here. I'm very grateful. It's a joy to be here. And I love the music, the one that we just sang, in the International Day of Music, which is today.
Is there another? Yes, please.
I love you. Love you more. This church was crucial in my journey. I'm a community activist, and UU has always been with me in the streets. We've helped thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, mostly through food lines, and our community free health clinic. You contributed permanently, constantly, systematically, either individually or as a church, in my mission in the streets. When I was hungry, getting to eat. When I was thirsty, getting to drink. Or when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was a foreigner in your land, you took me in. Most churches only say those things. They don't act on that. Unitarians do, and I've seen it. I came here, I was in a wheelchair right there in that church. Reverend Jim had helped me. That's the last time people tried to kill me. Every so often people try to kill me, but they never succeed. Last time they almost did, you know, I was in coma for 16 days, and I was in a wheelchair, but I went right back to the streets in a wheelchair with your help. And that's a testimony to the power, the spiritual power of this church. I beg of you to continue united and continue with the good work. It's all divinely inspired. I intend to come back. I lived and worked out of the city, but I intend to come back now that my friend Laura Vignoli from Maine and Uruguay is coming to help me in my enterprises. So I'm delighted to be here. May the force be with you.
I don't really need the microphone, but I guess this is going to count as a joy. Some of you know my efforts to network with other progressive faith communities around the city, and we have a little bit of a breakthrough that I'm excited about. I want to share it with you. Myself and Val Vogel from Little Farms United Church of Christ have formed on Facebook a group. It's a private group, but you can see it and join it, called the NOLA Progressive Faith Community, the purpose of which is to provide a common platform which supports and encourages constructive, lively, and friendly discussion among those of progressive faith in the New Orleans community and beyond. So please check it out. It's called the NOLA Progressive Faith Community. Join. There's going to be some great discussion, and it's a great way for us to network and connect with other people of other faiths that share our beliefs.
Yes. Sean.
Hi, everybody. Last week, so this is a joy. I was away. I traveled to Pittsburgh to give my mother a party for her 70th birthday. Yeah. So I came up just to share the joy that we had people come in from all over the country, from Colorado, Louisiana, that's me, Florida, Virginia, and some other places I'm not remembering. My mother has 4 siblings, many nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews, and grandchildren. So there was about 30 people there, and we had a weekend retreat. I wanted to share that, gratitude isn't the right word, forgetting to have my mother at 70 years, but on this particular event, I just was kind of amazed that so many people came from all over to celebrate the life of this, really kind and loving person. In such a way that I can't imagine, when I'm 70, I'm going to have that many people come to my birthday party. I don't have the charisma and the people skills that my mother has. So it was just amazing to see, this person be celebrated that has touched so many and that everybody loves. I am grateful for that. Thank you.
Wonderful. And we light 2 more candles. One for the joys, still bubbling up, but too new to share. And one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. Know that we hold you in our hearts. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online at ccuunola.org/stewardship or by text at 504-370-2659, text GIVE. And of course you can give in person this morning. It is our custom to give 50% of our plate to a cause our congregation and its social justice ministry support. During the offertory, you're invited to sing number 323. You can remain seated. Break not the circle, number 323.
Break
thank you, choir, and thank you all the good joys and the memorable sorrows shared here, and words said about me. Can't we just dispense with the sermon and just say this was a mutual admiration society? And that's quite a build-up. This better be a good sermon, or I don't know, I'm a little worried. I will say this. I do have something prepared just for you. I looked at some other things I might share. This is a fresh title, though not an original idea. In fact, nothing here that I'm about to say is original. But the words are compiled just for you. I just wanted to do it. I felt like it. And you deserve it. And so here goes. For better or for worse. And, I'm still shaking a little bit from, I was concerned about what Bill Fernandez was going to say about his encounter the first time he met. And I mean, that was a big deal. First time in a Unitarian Universalist church. I remember my first time. How many of you remember the first time you entered? Yeah, it's a big deal. We may forget a lot of things, but we won't forget that. Frederick Schleiermacher, how about saying that name early on Sunday morning? I practiced it all the way down here on Interstate 10. Schleiermacher, that gets you going in the morning. He's a German theologian who lived in the late 18th and into the early 19th century, took the criticisms of the folk who were very critical of religion during the Enlightenment era, capital E Enlightenment. We are products of the Enlightenment, by the way. Be proud of it. But he took the critics of the Enlightenment in that day quite seriously, and in so doing, he turned Christian orthodoxy on its head. We can thank him for it. He said, don't start with doctrine, but start with experience. Start with insight and feeling and intuition, and through experience, not through the imposition of theology or dogma. One will acknowledge a sense of the infinite in the finite. It was his idea. It was a great idea. I don't know if it's original with him, but he pressed hard on it. And you can look him up. He's on Wikipedia, and you can even read some of his fine words, translated, of course, in English. In other words, the critics of religion are justified in their criticism of that day. And the critics of religion today in our culture are probably damn well justified in their criticism of what they see. And I'm not just talking about abuses in southern Louisiana, but abuses of many places that call themselves religious outposts in American culture. So I'm not picking on any one particular religion here. But so the critics of religion should be heard. They have very good reason to be opposed to anything called religious. Religion, however, is first an experience, not instruction through renderings handed down by others. By the end of his published arguments addressing religion's cultured despisers, he addressed them, cultured despisers. He pretty much agreed that the religious critics of his era had good reason to challenge the wrong-headedness of Orthodox religion. His thought gave impetus to other religions in the 20th century. Paul Tillich, whom I studied, a 20th century theologian, who said in so many words, the answer to the fact of our existence must not precede the questions of existence, because all of us, by virtue of being in the world, first ask, what am I? Where did I come from? How should I live this life? Those questions come first, before anything on high drops down from a tradition or even from wise folk of ancient past. Orthodoxy proclaims an answer first, which is why people entering the door are going to naturally say, well, what do you believe? What do you all believe? What does the church believe? Because they're just kind of prone to ask that question when you walk in. But that approach subjugates and subordinates the existential question. And that's what Tillich gave us and others in the Enlightenment period. Implied in these time-honored questions, of course, is that ethical imperative: how should I live my life? This approach to religion is part and parcel of the Enlightenment, with a capital E, of which the Unitarian religious movement began in the 16th century. Starting first with experience. That's the source code. That's the source code of what we call a non-creedal religion. Not because we believe in nothing, but because we first honor individual experience and thought and insight and intuition as the starting place. The order of things is very, very important. Start with the questions and the feelings of experience before you ever get to any kind of theology or doctrine or even ritual. In other words, no trickle-down theology works for us. No trickle-down ideology regarding the most important matters of our lives. And what's the most important matters of our lives? Ultimate reality. How we look upon it, how we feel about it, how we talk about it, even if we don't have words about it. Religion has to do with that, ultimate reality. Paul Tillich says religion has to do with what concerns us ultimately. It's a very broad definition. You know, good heavens, you may not think well of me if I tell you I actually listen to some late night AM radio. What has AM radio become, especially late night? Isn't it interesting, the UFOs and all these unidentified objects on the planet always seem to be seen on the western portion of North America? I mean, why is that? I just don't see any of those things. But they seem to be out there in the western portion of our nation. Anyway, I heard on the air again, get ready for this, there are no atheists in foxholes. Oh no, that old saw again? No atheists in foxholes. You know, it's a false statement, really. Especially for those we have known at end of life who were not at all concerned about God, but were concerned to be alone in their last hours of their lives. And in my experience, it is the main concern of theists as well. They just want to know in their final hours if they're going to be alone going through this, or will someone be at their side. There's no substitute anywhere through artificial intelligence or social media or Zooming that takes the place of that, my friends. And I want to say, not even a robot. Besides, the universalists say no one's soul is ever in jeopardy in the first place. Why? Because in the first place, no loving God could justify anything but unconditional love. And you know, and thank you, amen to that indeed. It's not an original idea. Nothing is original today with what I say. But I'm lifting up some stuff, and you know, when I'm in a mixed gathering at a funeral, and when you go to a funeral these days, it is a mixed gathering. There's just all kinds. It's an interfaith gathering, and people of no faith are there. And often, I've noticed anxiety about the question of this deceased loved one's soul, and I just flat out say it. Somebody else can prove me wrong. Maybe in the hereafter I'll be proven wrong, but I just say it. This person's soul is not in jeopardy, because in this church we believe God is a loving God. No soul is in jeopardy. Why? Can't explain it, but it's unconditional love. No soul is really in jeopardy. The cultural critics and Schleiermacher's era is what I've been addressing this morning with a purpose in mind, because in our own era we too have good reasons, and others have good reasons to be critical of the petrifying and ossifying religion. And we must be on alert for those who have been abused by institutions that especially call themselves religious, that should have protected minors and adults. Institutions here in Louisiana, for example, it's just outrageous, because cover-ups in crime is complicit to crime. Am I overstating it today?
No.
No.
Thank you. It's just crime. And cover-up to crime is guilty too. So there are people who are struggling to heal, and maybe never again will come to a place of trusting an institution. But we must be welcoming and do whatever we can to engender trust in the feeling for the ineffable, and help folk to the extent that we can. Help them to be open to the holy in finite existence, sometimes described as noumena. Noumena, the presence of the divine. Tillich said that which concerns us ultimately is religion. That definition is so broad enough you can include all kinds of things, you know. You can include your very life, you can include your job, you can include, oh my goodness, am I going to pay the mortgage? Can I pay my rent? How's my 401k? Oh, my health, here we go again. Your children, your grandchildren, defense of the homeland. Oh, my ultimate concern right now is, are we going to have water to drink that's safe for us? My ultimate concern is levees don't break. You list. Add to the list. I just started my list. That's just a list. We live in southern Louisiana, we got a long list. And then ask yourself, is there anything that is even higher than that? Is there anything that is even higher than that? Can you name it? Try to add one more thing. Can you ante up that whole list? And whatever that thing is, if you can do it, that's ultimate reality. That's the thing, that's the stuff that concerns you ultimately, and that is religion. That is religion. Some might say it's God. Others would say they have no name for it. I honor that. Agnostics, atheists, maybe they're the most honest people about this thing. Muslims will not allow anyone to make a drawing of Allah. Not even their children when they color. Don't you dare even think about it, because it's impossible. It's idolatrous. Now, the word Allah in Arabic, that's as close as it should ever get. And reading the Holy Quran, if you have even an interpretation of it in English, you will note, you can count, but take my word for it, there are 99 descriptive words for Allah, which just gives you a sense that there's no really perfect way of getting to the image, if there is indeed an image of ultimate reality. And another religion of the ancient Near East we can recognize as well. Just going through the High Holy Days, and we think about our brother and sister Jews, our Jewish people who are real clear about this business when it comes to writing the name of God. Always leave out a letter if you dare. Write the word God on a piece of paper or in a book. Always leave out a letter D, suggesting that this thing that we wrote down or say or think we know is not ultimate reality. Because if we start writing it, then we think too highly of ourselves about something that we have captured, and you won't ever do it. You must not ever do it. Otherwise, it would be idolatry. Leave out a letter. Also in Hebrew, there's that guttural sounding word, ruach. Not even saying it right. I should have practiced it on Interstate 10. Ruach. Can you say it with me? Ruach. Ruach. Wow, you got it. It's got to come right out of you. It's got to come out of your lungs. It's got to go through your vocal cords. It's a wonderful word. Ruach. Is it spirit of life? Is it breath? Because you got to have it to say it. Is it the first breath that a baby expels? Takes in and then expels? Is the last breath that each of us will take and expel? You know, some of the ancient artists tried in their deathbed paintings and drawings, tried to indicate something that went up. The last breath, it goes somewhere. Ruach. Wow. It's kind of a fuzzy, it would be a fuzzy definition to describe what it is, but it's where we get the word spirit. Spirit. No wonder that breath plays such a role in the religions on the planet. I'm convinced that our religious movement, which we call Unitarian Universalism, must not be an alternative to religion. Rather, let us be an alternative. Let us be an alternative among the religions. When people walk in the door and have their concerns about religion, oh, we're not part of that. Oh, let us be an alternative among the religions, not an alternative to religion. I think that's our historical calling and our destiny. We must not promote ourselves as an alternative to religion, because like all religions, we yearn to consider that which is deepest or most high or transcendent, that which concerns us ultimately, whatever word we put on it or how we want to draw it. Maybe it's just breath. Here's one more definition on religion. I hope we have time. Yeah, I'm going to throw it out at you. I just happened upon this summer. I said, I'm going to take this to New Orleans. And if it doesn't work, if it works here, it might work anywhere. But if it doesn't work here, it ends here. You are too kind. Professor Brooke Zipperin of the University of Chicago Divinity School said that if you asked him, all these intellectuals, right? They've got a definition of everything. But if you caught me in an elevator and said, what's religion? You have these lectures, and you have these published books, and you go and you do this, and you have all these degrees, but what's your religion? And this is what he said. If you ask me what religion is, right on the spot, in an elevator conversation, I'd say religion is, and here are his words, an interest in any and every attempt made by human beings to work out a way to rock the relation between finitude and infinity. Man, I love that definition. To rock out something. Heinlein's introduction to the English language. To rock out something is to understand it intuitively or empathically. To rock out something. What finer laboratory in an era like this one than to do that kind of work with people in a church, in a good church that's trying to be better, right? That's what our churches are. We're a good church trying to be better. And that will appeal to people who are really burned out and upset and abused by religions. So you can try that. We're a good church trying to be better. Come and help it be better with us. It might just work. So, when it is said that Jesus was hungry and was tempted to turn stones into bread, he responded with a quote from his upbringing from the Hebrew Scriptures. It came right out of Deuteronomy. I mean, Jesus was first, and I think always a Jew. Is that too radical to say? Jesus was first and always a Jew. He was quoting Deuteronomy and is captured in the Gospels. It is written, one shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Thus gave me my title. Like I told you, nothing original in this sermon today. With no intention to improve upon the Deuteronomy text, I simply add, one ought not live by bread alone, and one ought not live by spirit alone. That's my take on it. Spirit ought not be sought at the exclusion of the material. For after all, we are all material beings, yes? And that is not all we are. We're not just material, we're also spirit. I'm reminded of the need to balance bread on the one hand and spirit on the other. When I hear folks, for example, who say, and you have said it, or you've heard it said, and maybe you've said it yourselves, oh yeah, a tornado, fire, hurricane ran through my life, but we only lost material things. We hear that. Almost as if people are programmed in this culture to say that. To show their stoicism, okay, check. To show their resilience, okay, check. But it's almost as if they're programmed to say it. But it does lead to, I think, a bad theology. Oh, it's just material stuff. material stuff is what we are, it's critical, and it's very much connected to memory and well-being and love. It's just stuff. That's not what my mother said years and years ago when she lost the very, very tiny diamond in her wedding ring one night after doing dishes, and I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday night. She said, I don't know where the diamond went. It's lost out of my setting. Tiny, tiny, tiniest diamond, which she received in 19 whatever, in the depth of the Depression. My mom and dad, I think, got a swayback cow and maybe 2 chickens for wedding, because this was the Depression. So it doesn't matter what size the diamond was, it's the loss and the meaning attached to it. It's just stuff was not something, one says, in such an event. All right, you want to know what happened to the diamond. The diamond was found the next morning about 3 inches away from the drain because, you scientists who know such things, diamonds are pretty heavy, and they're heavier than the grime in the wash that went down the drain, so there it was on Sunday morning. That's how that story went. But it doesn't always go that way, does it? No, it doesn't. We are nothing without a material existence. So my answer to the question, what are we, is we are material and we are spirit. We are material and we are spirit. In our culture, we run the risk of spiritualizing the Sermon on the Mount that you just heard from Matthew. I want you to hear it. I wanted to bring the Sermon on the Mount, I don't know, I guess I wanted to make a statement about that church that kicked me out because it was taken, that Methodist church was taken over by fundamentalists. You know, as a kid and as a young adult, I never ever heard the Sermon on the Mount or the Sermon on the Plain preached ever again. I grew up with that stuff as a Sunday school kid, but never heard it from the preachers. I haven't heard it from the Christian right either. It's lost in our culture, and it's repeated in Luke. So it's Matthew and Luke, Sermon on the Mount, Sermon on the Plain. Now, we're going to dig into this. In Luke, the emphasis is not so spiritualized, because rather than bless you who hunger in spirit, in Luke it's bless you who hunger now. That, I think, is a little different to my ears. How about you? According to tradition, gospel writer Luke was a physician, so one could argue, as people have argued, that the author was perhaps more in touch with the physical condition of people. Consider which text you might use if you were speaking at a rally of people who were striking for higher wages and better conditions. You can easily see how the homeless or the houseless folk and the hungry people would respond to a direct appeal to their physical condition. Bless you who are hungry now, not just who are hungry in spirit, but bless you who are hungry now. So a Luke sermon on the plain might call for direct action against oppressive regimes, as it has precisely done, especially in Central and South America. Let's see where we are this morning. The questions that human existence asks are foremost and primary and religious in nature, just by virtue of having existence. And that means an atheistic answer to the questions of existence, what, so what, now what, how shall we live, is a religious response to those questions. And it's an answer to our existence. What? So what? Now what? Those are answers to the questions of our existence. So many to say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Well, they have good reasons for saying it that way, because they're rejecting the institutionalized religion. They have very good reasons for rejecting it. Oh my goodness. There is a spiritual nature to our material lives. And as a consequence, our material lives will have their being in community and institutions that attempt to safeguard the well-being of people and family, and tribe and neighborhood, love for others and self in a safe and holy space. One does not actually live by spirit alone. That's right. In human history, first came the experience of something wonderful, and then the telling of the story, and then the singing of it in the song, and then dancing to it, way before it became ritualized, way before it became ideology, way before it became theology. The experience came first. Sure, there are 500,000 reasons not to be part of an institution, and there are reasons why religions have messed up lives. But human societies do not live outside of institutions that aim to care and attempt to make this world a safe place, even a better one. So Jesus is correct when he said one cannot live by bread alone. D.H. Lawrence, the author, is correct when he said the human soul needs actual beauty more than it needs bread. Okay, I think we understand the truth in those statements, but Luke said, don't forget bread. Hey, honey, if you're going out, don't forget the bread. Part of my spiritual discipline has always been, when I serve full-time and now in retirement, is to cover the comic section first. Otherwise, my cynicism will build up too much as I read the other sections. So read the comics first. In Pearls Before Swine, Pig asks Rat, do you say your prayers at night? And Rat says, of course I do. And Pig says, really? That sort of surprises me. Well, what do you say, Rat? And Rat recites, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my cash I keep. If I should die before I wake, I'll miss the loot I did not take. And Rat says, and you thought I wasn't spiritual. We are spiritual beings, and we are material beings. Religions can overemphasize one polarity versus the other, but neither should be diminished because choosing one versus the other really denies our substance, whether or not we're part of a church. A hungry person first needs bread and maybe shelter, not a lecture. Not a lecture. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. I think those words have become kind of a holy trinity. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. You name an imam, a rabbi, Catholic priest, Episcopalian priest, Protestant minister. You name one who would agree that should be worshipped in this culture. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. That takes care of it. Show forth somebody who believes that takes care of young people who have been destroyed, literally. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. Is that the holy trinity of our culture? Thoughts and prayers and balloons in the air. It ought to make you mad. And then I cry. In a recent report by U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, he said religious or faith-based groups can be a source of regular social contact. And they serve as a community of support, they provide meaning and purpose. They create a sense of belonging around shared values and beliefs that are associated with reduced risk-taking behaviors. I think it's profound words. He was referencing the loneliness and the isolation and the despair. People were engaged in these mass shootings. Yes, most of them are male and young, but they're all in that loneliness, desperate category. It may well be that the cultural critics of religion will again see a religious outpost. I hope so. Like a good church that's trying to be better. A good church that's trying to be better. A place for connection and deepening. The religious impulse is part of our DNA. I've said it 1,700 times, maybe, well, 170 times today already. It's part of our chemistry. It's the way our brains work. Homo religiosus is a meaning-making and a meaning-creating creature. That's what we are. Meaning-making and meaning-creating creature. That's what we are. We probe the depth of ultimate concern. What? So what? Now what? I'm going to close with one more little quotation. Brene Brown, fine writer, I think she does podcasts. She said, spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Period. Have you taken a look at the images from the James Webb Telescope lately? What? So what? Now what? You know, from the Hubble telescope, as good as it was, folks were estimating that there are probably 100 to 200 billion galaxies. Now with the James Webb, they're estimating there could be 2 trillion galaxies. Wow. And did all this come from nothing? Some say yes. But here's the question, and I tell you, this sermon is going to end with this question in just 2 more words. So get ready for it. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
If it all came from nothing, where did nothing come from? Where did nothing come from? Somebody's going to tell me today, because you're very smart to congregation, you're going to tell me, I think you just need to get into Physics 101, Steve. Have you ever taken an astronomy class? I know that's coming. I'm ready for it. But I want to know where nothing came from. One cannot live by bread alone, no. And one cannot live by spirit alone either. Thank you.
Yes, we do now extinguish this chalice, but we are to carry that light and the inspiration from Reverend Steve throughout our week. May it glow gently in our hearts. May it light our path as we leave this place. And may it guide your way until we are together again. And now the benediction.
For all who seek God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek our right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Beethoven said that music is the mediator between the spirit and the sensual in life, so it's good that we get to sing. Closing hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. It's 126, 126. Is that the correct? Oh, excuse me, it's 34. Sorry, I meant to say 34. Beethoven would be fine with that one too. 34, though I speak with bravest fire. Thank you. 34.
conversation in the fellowship hall.